In the world of indie comics, few names hit as hard or as heartfelt as Inaki and Roy Miranda. You might know them from their breakout sci fi masterpiece, We Live, a story that blended hope, heartbreak, and heroism into one unforgettable ride. But as fate would have it, life had other plans. Now, rising from the forge of adversity, the Mirandas return with a brand new story called Blade Forger, published by Mad Cave Studios. And my friends, this isn't just a new comic, it's a whole new mythos. So sit back and get ready because today we're diving into a new world full of magic, action, drama, and heartbreak. Today I'm going to review Blade Forger issues 1 through 5, walking you through each one and then giving you my final thoughts. I may be a big fan of these creators, but is this comic book worth your time? What's going on, everyone? My name is E-Man, and this is E-Man's World of Geek. And on this channel, I talk to you about comic books, Transformers, gaming, tech, and more. If you're new to the channel, thank you so much for coming by and hanging out. Consider subscribing and hit that notification bell. That way you get notified anytime I drop any one of these new videos. Let's talk a little bit about Blade Forger. The discovery of Quorum, a never-before-seen energy source, led to a bloody world war for its control. After years of death and destruction, the Lords of the Lands agreed to stop the fight and sit at the same table to negotiate an agreement. The Blade Forgers Treaty was born from that meeting. This treaty established that the centralization of Quorum exploitation would be done through one central government led by a neutral emperor. The emperor would have to be a blade forger, a mystical swordsperson who calls upon their battle kaisers from the land of the Gara Gara and defend the title in a tournament called the Tournament of the Five Rings. Every 5 years, blade forgers from every corner of the empire would fight to the death for a chance to become the new emperor. This begins the story of one man and his family's rise and fall, the story of a hero that was supposed to be. Issue number 1. Now, this issue jumps several times to give us the story of the main character throughout the pages of these comics. It's time for the Tournament of the Five Rings to begin, and an upcoming 22-year-old blade forger named Awada is about to take up the challenge in hopes of becoming the new emperor of his land and gain control of their power source, Quorum. The first few pages begin with his introduction and the faith of a people longing for change in the empire so that they're not forgotten and hope to have a new emperor fairly distribute the Quorum so that way they aren't left behind. Let's go back to a 12-year-old Awada who was given a special gift as he's playing outside as normal kids do. His parents hand him his very first battle blade, a weapon that can only be wielded by blade forgers, to call on their battle kaisers, mystical warriors from the land of the Gara Gara, to aid them in battle during the Tournament of the Five Rings. As all boys should, he gets super excited for his gift, but he can't call upon his battle kaiser just yet. Now fast forward to 40 years after we first meet Awada, and now he's the emperor of the land, controller of all things Quorum, and unable to control the civil unrest that's happening throughout the kingdom. While the lords of their lands discuss reform in Awada's palace, his son Amora is speaking on his behalf. Awada's in the Gara Gara, seemingly fighting for something he just can't get. Now, every blade forger already has and can call upon their battle kaiser, so what's Awada doing in the Gara Gara? Now, we've met his son Amora. Now, let's go back to 2 years before his first tournament, where we meet Awada's wife and his baby daughter, Sakima, a child he wants to make sure he can change the world for. Issue number 2. Now we meet a 12-year-old Sakima who, like her father, is also training so she can earn her battle kaiser, with the guidance of Awada, of course. After defeating the guardian of her battle kaiser and gaining their power, Awada talks to her about another special forge. He takes her back into the Gara Gara as he continues to tell her the tale about the most powerful forge out there, one no one has been able to retrieve. The Forge of Doom. Time jumps forward and we see the fallout between an older Awada and Sakima. As she tells her father she's leaving the palace, she's done with what's going on, because she's unhappy with the man he's become over the years. After some back and forth, She leaves him and the life that he's built for her behind. Now we're in current times, and we see an even older and battle-tested Owada, who's just won the latest tournament, asking his son Omura to bring Sakima back home before the inauguration begins. Omura leaves to find his sister, and now we see Owada back in the Gara Gara. Why is he in there when he's had his own battle Kaiser for 40 years? Well, it seems like he's put his people, family, and himself aside all of these years for his one true goal, to wield the Forge of Doom. But does he finally win it? Issue number 3. Now let's go ahead and meet Hondo and Merle, Sakima's children, who are outside her cottage in a forest, doing all mischievous things young ones do, as they should. Owada has a brief interaction with his niece and nephew before an emotional reunion with his sister. After a warm and long overdue embrace, we now see the family at the ceremony. Now, this was tough as we see Owada starting to speak to the people. This is where he talks to them for the first time as if they truly mattered. After a few pages of this speech that seems more like a bookend rather than an act of acceptance of a champion. As Owada continues to speak to the crowd, we see a hooded woman walk right up to Sakima as she hands her a mysterious box, which Sakima reluctantly opens and reads the note that's inside. For my little Sakima, the Forge of Doom is now yours. And in the most Miranda Brothers way, the moment that you didn't see coming, Owada takes his battle blade and impales himself in front of everyone. The age of Owada now comes to an end, and Sakima, by default, is now promoted to Empress. Issue number 4, my absolute favorite issue in the whole story. Let me go ahead and introduce you to Uncle Dumas, the local tour guide of the Gara Gara and a merchant of Gara Gara collectibles. Uncle used to be a blade forger and is willing to share his knowledge of the Gara Gara for a small fee. Okay, enough of the very handsome, all-knowing, and charismatic Uncle Dumas. As Uncle Dumas addresses the crowd, we see Omura finding Merle and Hondo and bringing them to their mother Sakima. In her sorrow, she teaches the children about the afterlife, letting them know if a blade forger dies, they're reborn as a battle Kaiser and sent to the Gara Gara. However, if a blade forger falls to the Forge of Doom, their afterlife is much worse. They won't be reborn in the Gara Gara as a blade forger. They'll be sent to the Kurakurayami. That's this world's version of perdition, where they roam an endless land forever. Good or bad, Sakima now owns that forge. However, it's not enough to just have the Forge of Doom. You must now face the Guardian to be able to wield its power. The Crimson Mask is the Empress's foe, the one that she must defeat to hold the title and keep the Empire's rule under her father's bloodline. But before the match begins, a messenger falcon delivers a mysterious letter. The sender? It's Omura, letting her know that he can no longer protect her, and from now on, she's on her own. Let's cut back over to the Crimson Mask. Before the match, he's also preparing. He's headed into the Gara Gara, but speaks to a mysterious voice. And after, some back and forth, it seems like the Crimson Mask may have another weapon at his disposal for the final fight with Sakima. However, this newfound power comes with some steep stipulations, one that's not good for him or Sakima. No matter the outcome of this fight, this power sees the throne as payment. Now wielding that dangerous power in his hands, and a slash of his battle blade, the Crimson Mask makes his spectacular entrance into the final ring. Sakima and the Crimson Mask now must face each other for the final fight, and for the title of Emperor or Empress, and the one who controls all of the quorum of the land. Final issue number 5, here we are. The final fight is at hand. The loser loses their life and are sent away to the land of the Gara Gara as a battle Kaiser, while the winner walks away as the new ruler of the land who controls all of the quorum in the kingdom. A powerful but inexperienced Sakima is about to enter the ring for the first time as the Empress of the land. Now we begin. The stairs, The calling of the battle Kaisers, and the fight begins. The Crimson Mask and Sakima go at it, back and forth, knowing what's at stake. They both give it all they have, with the Crimson Mask seemingly taking Sakima to her limits. This is when Sakima does the unthinkable. Even though she has the Forge of Doom, she actually calls upon the power of the Forge of her father, the Purple Spectre. The Forge he's used over all of these years to defeat his opponents and continue to be Emperor of the land. With this power, Sakima defeats the Crimson Mask. This is a duel to the death. It always has been. The victor must end their opponent to become ruler of the land. But in victory, Sakima stands over the defeated Crimson Mask and allows him to live. The Crimson Mask begs her to end him, but as he lays there, the Forge is talking to him, reminding him of the payment for using that power. This is where Sakima finds the person behind the mask. It was Omura, her brother. Omura is begging Sakima to end his life, but she can't. That's her brother. As he's lying, you can see Omura start to morph into something else. Sakima sees the danger, is reluctant to grant her brother his last wish, but still attempts to grant that wish nonetheless. But it's too late. Omura fully transforms into the being known as the Dragon, blocks her attack, and counters by impaling Sakima through her abdomen. The dragon revels in his win, rises, and uses his power to bring the children over to him. The dragon at this moment makes an announcement. The Empire no longer needs heirs and does the unthinkable. And with a powerful and swift swing of his sword, he splits Hondo in half. Sakima screams in horror as she sees her only son violently cut into two pieces. And unlike her father, Sakima faced her fear, and now the guardian of the Forge of Doom now deems her worthy of the power of the Forge. Now the dragon eyes Merli as the second sacrifice, but before he could finish his attack of the final heir to the throne, Sakima, with her last bit of power left, uses the Forge of Doom to save her daughter, only to be beheaded by the dragon as he stands over her lifeless and headless body. The dragon has won. To end the story, we see Merli waking up, lost and confused in an endless land of nothingness. And that's how this prelude ends. The world building, the character development, this all moved really fast, but the Miranda brothers needed to set the stage for what's to come for the future of Blade Forger. Yes, there were a lot of time jumps within the story, but they had to do it this way to let the reader know what was supposed to be a hopeful path, only to see despair and pain. The tone is definitely darker than that of We Live. The eternal struggle for some of these characters was deep and heartfelt, and I felt those. They make you think one thing before they change course and take you somewhere else. They truly are the kings of you never know what's going to happen next. They gave us a new world. They gave us the conflict that needed to be resolved. They gave us a heavy story that is definitely next level. They gave us characters that I cared about only to have them stripped away from me violently. This was the comic book roller coaster ride of the year, and now I need more. What's going to happen with Merli? What did Iwata do wrong in the last 40 years as emperor? Why was he so focused on getting the Forge of Doom? What does the dragon have in store for this land, its people, and most importantly, the Quorum? Inaki and Roy gave me another fantastic comic that any fans of Final Fantasy, He-Man, and anime can most certainly enjoy. With the Game of Thrones-esque twists and turns, this is a comic you should support by adding to your read list. I want you to be a big fan of this comic as I am. I want to send a message to Mad Cave to allow them to complete this story as they want to tell it, from beginning to end, to give us a story we all deserve. Final score, 4.5 out of 5. I think allowing this story to continue another 1 or 2 issues would have been nice, but I think the Mirandas did a fantastic job with what they had. It felt rushed. It was, the pacing was a little fast at times, but slowed down when it needed. Other than that, I felt like the storytelling in Blade Forger was perfect. Inaki and Roy are the kings of you'll never know what's going to happen next. And I'm here for all of that. It's no secret that I'm a big fan of the Miranda Brothers, and after reading Blade Forger and We Live, I hope you'll be a fan too. And also keep in mind this was a prelude. So there's supposed to be more to come. According to Inaki, we haven't met the main character yet. Thank you so much for watching this review of Blade Forger until the end. If you like this video, make sure to check out other videos I have here on the channel. If you're a fan of comic books and Transformers, or just want to see some silly tech shorts, you know, just because I'm me, that's how I do things. Make sure to check out the other videos that I have here, and I'll see all of you in the next issue.